Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I do know that Summer is gone, so we've got Warren sitting in her place, and Josh did ask if we could have a motion to excuse his absence. I haven't heard about the other two. So, we can have a motion to excuse Josh.
Move to excuse Josh.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And if everyone could take a minute and look over the minutes from September. I'm going to have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes for September 16th.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Warren, the financial report, I don't think we do have one, do we?
Yeah, there's one
Oh,
in
we
the,
do? Okay.
your agenda package. It's the main thing that, wanted to go over, make sure you saw the July and the August collections. Your July collection was $12,074.19, and the August collections were, $10,142. Of course, Janet has got in here the disbursements, the MC Outdoor Advertising was $8,750. And then your commitments at the bottom, and essentially you got total commitments of $33,000. You got a remaining balance of $24,721, and then you got commitments already outstanding for $33,431.
Any questions? Okay.
The only question I have is we had moved the capital reserve at 100,000.
That's actually carryover money.
Okay.
Your reserve is
Carryover.
100, your reserve's 100, the 111,255 is carried over from previous year.
Okay. 11,255. Okay.
Because you know we're a month behind when we did our budget stuff, so that money hadn't come in yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to subcommittee reports. We don't really have anything on finance and budget.
No.
Nothing on policy and procedures. And I don't believe there was another application except for one that we've got on the agenda for tonight. So we'll move on to old business. I did ask that Paul Gardner come and speak with us like he did with the TDC. Because in case y'all were not aware, the TDC did agree to vote on the $15,000 to match us for the theater. So I did ask that Paul come and explain what's going on like you did with the TDC.
My counterpart is here. This is Adam Raymond from Premier Marketing.
Hello.
Just Kenny was saying, TDC did approve the $15,000, and what we're going to do with that is simply, I think what was done in previous years. First off, I want to say that the theater and the Smoky Mountain Center for Performing Arts is not closing down. We did not sell to a church. We are full steam ahead, just as always, and if not better than previous years. We're really excited about our 2014 season. We're in the booking process now, full steam ahead. 2014, we're very excited about it. So with the $15,000, that all goes toward driving outside customers in to Franklin. We recognize that a majority of our patrons that visit our concerts, our productions, are not from Franklin. I mean, Franklin does show up at these events, but a majority of it is outside. North Georgia, Greenville, Knoxville, Haywood County, Asheville area. That's the collective what comes in and makes these shows, like we had last night, sell out. I don't know if any of you were at Third Day last night, but Mac Powell, their lead singer, practically polled the audience halfway through their set to find out where people were from, and it was all those areas I just mentioned. So that's what we want to do with these funds, is use them toward advertising in the North Georgia area, Greenville area, do digital billboards, and that type of subject with that. You want to touch on that anymore?
Yeah, just real quick, before I came over here, I went ahead and mapped Third Day. So you can see, I'll pass this around if you'd like to see it. So you can see visually where we're pulling patients from. This is Franklin, this blue is all Georgia, the red is South Carolina. And last year, this gives you a little bit better representation of a 2-month span of where we're pulling people from. So you can see we're much more of a regional draw than just Franklin or Silva or Otto. And we've adjusted our marketing in the last 2 years to reflect that. We do a lot less local marketing while we still do it, radio, newspaper, some TV. We're focusing a lot more on the Atlanta market, the Florida tourism market. We're doing that right now, mainly through social media and digital. Facebook, it's just the most economical way to reach those markets. To do it in print or any other medium would be just exorbitant. So we're using Facebook. I brought some stats for that as well, but what we're finding is people that are interested in the arts, now that we've got a good fan base for the theater, it's sharing that information with those friends of theirs. They're seeing that they're attending a show or have attended a previous show, and now they're interested in, hey, what did you go do and how did you like it? So we're trying to use more of this to reach that audience. One of the things that Paul mentioned that we were looking to use the funds to do is piggyback the digital billboards you're already running in Atlanta. So that way now you've got back-to-back impressions of visit Franklin, North Carolina, and then come to the Smoky Mountain Center for the Performing Arts for another big act, hopefully another third day or another Merle Haggard, something of that nature. So that's what we're looking to do with the funds, also using it to do digital ads to reach these markets that normally we just don't have the funds to do. So I don't know if there's any questions that Laura can answer, but.
I have a question. How quickly did Third Day, for example, book sell out? I mean,
It was sold out a month beforehand. So.
And we post the tickets 4 months ahead, so it's
4 months
90 days.
Did they meet the 4-month criteria though?
They didn't. I don't even think we got 4 months to market.
They contacted us. That was a kind of backwards of the way that show was approached. So they were actually within the 4-month period and sold out a month ahead.
I was just looking at their sales chart too on the timeline. Josh had sent it to me from the data he sends him, and it's one of these. It's just as soon as it launched, the email alone, just to give you an idea of how effective our digital marketing is, we can track fairly accurately how many tickets we sell through email. And we sold over $3,000 worth of Third Day tickets just from telling people that it was coming to the area. So then we piggyback that with, hey, your friends just bought tickets, don't you want to come too? And so the chart just went, like a 45-degree angle to sell out.
And we can, I'm more than happy to send this data to anyone. It's actually very interesting. I think you'd enjoy reviewing it. It's crazy where people are coming from. And we're learning each year that people are spending money on entertainment, no matter what the economy's doing. It makes people feel good. They're doing it. They're coming to shows. They're coming from Atlanta. They're coming from Greenville. They're coming from Knoxville. They're coming from these large markets. We've got a really great room. It's a listening room. It's a different type of venue. There's not a bad seat in the house, as most of you probably know, and people enjoy coming. So any more questions?
There is a concern that I know that with the advertising part.
Yeah, and this was more related to what I guess the sort of perception was about the Baptist Church when that first happened. From what I understand of it now, they basically just happen to rent the space occasionally, or is it every? I mean, maybe
it's
every
week.
week.
It's a weekly.
Anytime government funds, tax dollars go to an organization that has religious ties, you got to really have eyes out for a First Amendment sort of claim. I don't really think that I think it's so remote, just the fact that this happens to be a venue that happens to occasionally, rent to a religious organization is so remote. I don't think it's worth being concerned about. But I do think that there's a test of whether or not a government has violated the First Amendment and gone in and established a religion, the Establishment Clause, if you have become excessively entangled with it. And I could go on and on about what that means, but a long story short is, I think in this particular case, those funds not be, and this may not be in anything you're advertising anyway, but I think we need assurances, and it might need to be in the form of an agreement, that the funds will not go to promotion of explicitly, overtly, like, I think we would potentially have a problem if the TDA logo is showing up on Biltmore Baptist Church ads, for
And what-
instance, but.
Where I could see some crossover there is, you see our table tents on like restaurant tables where it's Running Hillside, Ron Vincent, Biltmore Baptist. That is not where these funds are going. At that local level, the newspaper, the Macon County News, where you see, again, 6 shows on one ad, that's not where these are going. If that's kind of the concern, as far as the cross advertising with other shows.
I think, yes, okay, then I think we're gonna be fine, as long as they're in, I would appreciate if we sort of work on I hesitate to tell you that this is fine and there won't be any problem with this, and it's all gonna be A-okay, when I don't know what it ends up being, so if you'll kind of work with us to just sort of, as we work through them, make sure that none of them are getting too close, but I don't think there's a problem for the most part.
We can do that by proofs or whatever needs to happen.
We treat this as any other rental or marketing.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Paul?
That's all my fault.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I guess before we move any further, we need to change the motion and go to motion to, I mean, I know we've said that we would match the TDC, but
Yeah.
now that it's been official, we need to motion again to.
Everybody's
Go ahead and
here
agree
was aware
with
that the TDC at their last meeting approved the $5,000 for 3 quarters, 5,000 each quarter, and that's what they did. So
Because our
that's-
motion was for that if the TDC was going to match the funds, 15,000, that we would. So do we need to go into a motion again, to go ahead and say that we're gonna do that? Because I know it's been tabled.
Yeah, I don't
think
think,
we
I don't think you
agree.
voted on it, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't,
So
I
when
think
did
that was a discussion that we had between the
Right.
2 groups, that we would match, or we're considering matching that.
So we'll
Still
need a
have to
motion
vote
for
on it.
that
And I
tonight.
will make that motion, that we fund, the 15,000, we could break it out over quarters if somebody wants to do it that way. The seconder can amend the motion if they so desire. With the provisions that not be designated for overtly religious performances.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to new business, we have a funding request for the Winter Wonderland. And if you'd like to present, thank you.
I'll pass out some brochures. Winter Wonderland will be a little bit different this year. We've added a 3rd night like we used to have. We used to have 2 nights of Winter Wonderland. Now we have, on Thanksgiving weekend, we'll have the tree lighting service, and that has become very popular. It is almost as big now as the first night of Winter Wonderland. We have a lot of people here that are visiting family for Thanksgiving weekend, so this is something for them to do on the Friday night of Thanksgiving weekend. Winter Wonderland, as I said, we'll be doing it 2 nights, the first 2 Friday nights in December. We will have the ice slide both of those nights. We'll have the First Baptist Church, the chapel of that church. We'll have some singing groups there on the 2nd night, which is the 13th. Wagon rides will be all 3 nights this year. That's another new feature. And I think the merchants really will appreciate that 3rd night of Winter Wonderland. So we're asking for $2,000 to help us with advertising. Any questions?
And where is that advertisement going?
We have been advertising in the Georgia Mountain Laurel for most of our festivals, which has worked out really well for us. We advertise in Greenville. We of course advertise in Nashville and Gainesville down in that area, which is we have found has worked for us for Pumpkin Fest and Trail Days area.
Any questions? Can can I keep these extras?
Yes, I have
Yeah.
them here.
Take
Take some too.
take some to the end.
Spread those out amongst you.
So.
Do you want some? Thank you.
Can show the pump.
So this is something that we would need to think about and bring up to our next meeting. So we can either approve or not. Winter Wonderland.
We've had it for a while. We're acting on it tonight.
I thought we just got this one.
Yeah, we just got this one. That's totally-
Yeah, that was Oktoberfest that we voted on the last time.
No.
Winter Wonderland's
All
first.
right.
Oh,
I thought we mentioned this last week.
It'll be held to our next meeting, which will be in November.
All right.
Okay, moving on to legal discussion. The proposed amendment.
At
This is on
the-
reserve.
At your prior meeting, I presented to you the proposed amendment to section 2.4. This deals with the reserve fund. And the proposed amendment would change it to a 25% of the yearly budget reserve. That's before you now, and because it was presented at the prior meeting, you have had it for 30 days, you would be in a position to adopt it tonight, subject to any other changes or discussion.
I have a suggestion. I think instead of our percentage, that we should do a dollar amount.
Why?
Because their percentage, I mean, it can fluctuate. I mean, at least this way, like you said, 25,000, it's 25,000, not 25%.
For accountability purposes on the, for general accounting purposes, it's much easier to maintain if you do set a dollar figure. But now we're at
That's gonna
100,000
fluctuate.
because
We're a month
the
behind.
percentage will fluctuate from month to month depending on how it is, and it's gonna be every month you're gonna be coming in saying, okay, how much is?
How much do we have?
So
Yeah.
honestly, I would be happier from the town's end if we actually set a dollar figure. And if I could make a suggestion, I tend to be a conservative person. I would be much more comfortable, and obviously you've got $100,000 reserve now. I would be much more comfortable if you split the difference between the 100,000 and say 25,000, which is the 25%, and maybe left it at 50,000. The reason being, if you'll notice on the financial report that I brought to you tonight, you have those commitments outstanding there, and then you have the dollar figures will float in and out. And obviously, those checks have to clear. You have to have enough money in the bank to clear all those checks and make sure you're not living month to month on the money you have coming in. If, running in there, you can see you're in about the $25,000 to the $30,000 range from month to month on what your commitments are, whatever you've got to have paid out. Realistically, your fund balances for small budgets need to be in the 40 to 50% range to give you that comfort level to make sure that you got funds coming in, funds coming out, and you don't short yourself somewhere and get in a situation where you come up 1 month and, oh gosh, this is really good, but we don't have enough money to do it. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to do that, leave it at, say, 50,000 instead of 25,000.
And you have to think too, I mean, places closed down last year. I mean, it could happen next year, something could close down, you're not getting that occupancy tax that you had before, which could cut your percentage even lower. What if you didn't have any funds to spend next year, then where are you gonna be? I mean, you wouldn't be able to continue any of the things that we've been doing now.
And I honestly don't have a problem with the 100,000. I understand the 100,000 was set up to, you have the reserve to cover your month-to-month stuff. When you got low months coming in, you got higher money coming out, to make sure you flow through and you don't have any gaps in your accountability with the money coming in and out. I also understand that was set up to cover some major something that you all might want to do unexpectedly during the year, or major event, major something.
Yeah, originally, having been, the summer originally set at 25% of the income. and, you know, that was not capped.
Capped.
Then when I got on the board, as a voting board member, then I suggested capping at 100, because that would be 1 year's funds. And, because we were very close to that number, you know, we were within about 5 or 6 months of reaching 100,000, and that would be approximately what we're getting every year. You know, Josh doesn't, he was the one that brought it up as being, you know, he thinks that we don't need to have that much money in a float. Of course, when we budget 100, we've still got the 100 there, so that means spending any of this money would require a budget adjustment to be approved by the town board also.
And I don't think, I'll be honest with you, Mike, I'm not uncomfortable going to them asking for a budget amendment to change it from
Yeah,
150,000. I would be a little, I'll be honest with you, I'd be a little hesitant to do 25,000, but I don't have a bit of hesitation asking for 50. And I really don't know that they'll have an issue with that.
But that's only if we're gonna be spending it. That's the other issue, is that we have to approve an expenditure. And then if it's gonna take us beyond our budget, we would have to get a budget amendment. Of course, that could wait till the end of the year, because, you know, the funds here are designated to be spent by this board for the purposes of furthering tourism in the community.
And let me ask
And
you,
it's a limited.
We have to have an expenditure to dip into the reserve, not an expenditure to lower the reserve amount, right?
Yeah. Well, in either way, we budgeted based on what our income is gonna be. So if we're gonna increase our outgo beyond our budget, we have to do a budget amendment.
Right.
So if the intent is to spend 25 of the 100, then we have to budget for that expenditure separately.
and I do agree that, I think when we've talked about this in the past, we've never actually come to the point of having the TDA spend any of those funds. It's
Right.
not, it's
No,
not
we don't
happening.
have a reason to.
Right.
Right.
And I agree, Warren and I were talking earlier, that will require a budget amendment by the town board, because you're going over 100,000 at that point and
Right.
spending more than 100, and that will require a budget amendment. But I've always felt like as long as the funds that were being spent, and this is what I wanted to ask you, Warren, as long as they are funds that were, you know, they are the room occupancy tax and they are collected for this board to spend them, I don't feel like the town board, they shouldn't have any problem
No,
with
they
amending that to
won't.
spend.
It's just a matter of policy for them to, right now, your line item budget in the town's budget is $100,000. Well, if you go and at this point say, we want to do a budget amendment, we'll change the reserve to 50,000. Your operating budget will go to 150,000 for this year, because you'll have the $50,000 in there. Whatever you do with that this year, you do whatever.
We don't have to spend it.
Well,
We don't have to
we
spend it
don't
at the end of the
have
year.
to do that.
It could roll back in, you know, this year you had 111,000. It can roll back in, the money will be back in there next year, so. What happens is when you move it in, do a budget amendment, move it into a line item, that allows you to access those funds, that you don't have a checkbook, so that puts it in the checkbook for you to use to do what you need to with.
Yeah. So that's the purpose of the budget.
Right.
To
Yeah.
make it available for us to spend beyond our budget.
Right.
I
But
hate to do this,
the-
but
Do we need
it's
to
going
spend
to
it
be
though? I mean, we're
restricted
not even-
funds.
I realized just a minute ago, and I think you should continue having this discussion, but I just realized that your bylaws require that an amendment has to be by a vote of 7 members. You only got 6
All
here.
7. So it's just discussion.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Good discussion, though.
Now we can adjourn.
Yeah, I mean, I would be inclined, because, you know, and I think what they were looking for is in case of disaster, you know, we needed to do some punch-up advertising for some reason, that they wanted to have some funds there. And I felt it would make us a target if we let it go beyond what our annual expenditures were. Why are you saving it all? And then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, is spending it for promotions. So, you know, that's why I wanted to cap it at 100, and the board agreed at that time to do that, so. I kind of, with Warren, 50 would be a better number than 25.
Or a percentage.
Yeah, and the percentage, if it's annual, and that's the way Josh proposed it, was 25,000 would be our annual based on our historic budget so far. We're anticipating about 100,000. If the economy turns around really good, and I used to do a report that showed month-to-month comparisons that we haven't been getting. But, you know, how we're comparing to last year would be important to see here, because then we would know what we're doing.
And we can get a
And I
comparison.
remember that report that I used to do for you guys.
And I'm sure that Janet and someone keep something like that.
Janet doesn't, but some, you know. But that, you know, because our expenditures tend to be on a tourism season, I put together a 12-month expenditure listing that we used to distribute to, and that showed us, because here now this report stopped June 30th, and this report now is from
Well, that's because our
July
fiscal
1st
year.
because of the fiscal year. However, our expenditures are based for time that spans that fiscal year.
Well, and I think that's why the last of this past fiscal year, we stopped at 4 or 5 months and couldn't spend anything because we didn't even know the funds. I mean, we were running behind. We didn't even have anything to spend. I think we were down to, what, 100 and something? So,
Well,
I mean.
Yeah, but that was, and again, that was an issue that I had a problem with, because we had the cash in the bank to do that and not stop. But nobody would take that message. And we could have if we had issues that we wanted to spend on, we could have done a budget adjustment then and gotten into that money. So, I mean, that's the thing, is that we can do this budget amendment at any time based on the decision of this board. There's no other guiding force or other than that this board decides that they want to spend on an issue, they can spend it. There is cash in the bank to do that. So all it would require is the town board to do a budget.
The only thing is, we run a month behind, is it a month and a half behind?
Yeah.
I mean, and you're going by a budget, and just like any business, you run that budget within what you think you're gonna make for that year. You still don't know what you're getting the next month or the next month, because those funds have not come in yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, spending our $100,000, I mean, we should be very, that's what the whole budget was from Premier of what we were gonna do. I mean, if you look at it now, just spending, what, $8,000 just for the 2 months for the JV, I mean, that's $8,000 right there that and that's only for 2 months. So then what are we gonna do for the rest of the year? Yeah, we can take from that, but we've
Gotta
gotta
spend
consider
it,
our
right?
budget.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be spending those funds unless there's a big opportunity that is gonna help tourism, not just to fund something because they've done it every year.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you shouldn't underestimate how much that, the motorcycle rally
Yeah.
put a big dent in planning that
Mhm.
the board didn't really get over that until, you know, the end of last fiscal year, so.
Yeah.
So we were still getting bills in at the last minute, and that's the thing, I mean, and I don't know if y'all realize, but $8,000 just came out, so if you've got bills that are unpaid that haven't been paid yet, and yeah, there's funds left over, that was $8,000 we just had to sign and pay for the gentleman that came, that's doing the Facebook and the Google AdWords. And you gotta think for the rest of the year, is that something we're gonna wanna spend those funds on? I mean,
I thought this was on the floor,
I'm sorry, Ford.
No.
You're right.
about outdoor advertising.
Well, we just rededicated the money, that's funds around. But the, you know, I'm, you know, my vote would be, tend to be closer to Warren's request than less. But even then, you know, it's still gonna take us to amend our budget and that to spend any of that surplus, or now to be considered surplus money. It's still in a reserve, and if, you know, like I say, if we decide to spend it to that, then we've got to do the budget process, get the budget amendment, and it's done. There's no reason that we are forced not to spend it because we can't change our budget. It's totally incorrect.
So if
But
I'm
we
reading,
can amend our own budget.
if I'm reading the consensus of the board, you want to see a $50,000, a dollar
Yeah.
figure and 50,000 for your next meeting, and maybe you'll have 7 to vote on it.
I'm more
So we'll
comfortable with
leave
the
that.
50,000 figure.
Yeah.
Me too. At least something to fall back on.
Yeah, just a minute.
So we'll have to, we'll add that to the agenda
We
for
can,
next month.
we
and
can
then
maintain a
we'll-
cap, I mean, not to exceed 50, I think it could be worded that way. And then, we shall
Well, that's
maintain a
something we'll have
reserve
to vote on
fund not
next
to
month.
exceed 50,
And we need.
but that we can
We need
spend
7.
into it, John. We've got to have the wording that we can spend,
Well,
because we've got income. And as long as we've got income, then we should be able to,
you can spend into it, and I think it's the TDA's funds to spend if you want to do that.
That's
But
correct.
it will take, if that's, you know, if you've gone over $100,000 and now you're spending $100,001,
Have a
it
good
will take an
reason.
amendment from the town board.
The town's budget will have to be amended.
and that I fully understand, but we were, you know, we were acting like we could not amend that at the end of last year.
Well, we
because
can't go back where we did then, but we will leave it for discussion for our
Yeah.
next meeting and see how the rest of the board
And
goes.
if you still feel like we need, if the board feels like we need to amend the bylaws to say something like that, we sure can. But Mike, it's just not, I mean, it's just, you're right. Those are TDA funds to be spent by the TDA.
And it can only be spent by the
Yeah,
TDA,
they can't go
and it
anywhere.
can't be
There's no
spent by the
balance.
town board, it can't be spent by anybody else
Okay,
without this board's authorization. But that's our money, and I don't care if it's 100,000 in there, I was so
well,
frustrated.
that's something we'll have to vote on next month, but we're gonna move on.
Okay.
Is there any items from the board? Okay, announcements, the next regular scheduled TDA meeting is gonna be Tuesday, November 12th at 5:30, and it's gonna be the Tuesday because I think it falls on a holiday or
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day,
Veterans
yeah.
Day, yeah.
So we changed it to then. And
Okay.
just let me know if you have any problems with that, but that's the date that we have. I mean, if you're not gonna come.
Thank Sheriff, that's
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like,
I can't think that far ahead, I don't know.
Main Street meetings, I think they're on Tuesday nights. And that would create a problem for me, because I'm on the board for Main Street, I mean, not for streets, but like for just the town.
Will you check on that? I'm gonna so that we can let everyone else know and see if there's a problem, because we still got.
And Summer can check with
But
everyone
the only thing-
and let them know that a quorum is
Because I'll
going
have
to
to
be.
be, yeah, because I'll have to be here,
Yeah,
right?
because we can't vote on
Yeah,
it.
Right.
'cause we'll need everybody for that.
So we'll
I
send
can't
out an
remember
email.
if
At
the meeting's on
least-
Tuesday or
Good luck, I got
Wednesday.
it.
And
At
John,
least
There's
one or
9
two more.
members, but yeah.
policy
Or
of
Josh.
absentees, I mean, it's becoming an ongoing issue, and
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's in your bylaws. Let me find it in just a second. There's something in there, and it's a fairly common thing for a body like this to say, missing 3 consecutive meetings or more may be grounds for, no.
It's right here.
Which section is it? Sharon?
Article 3.
3?
75% or 3 consecutive.
transaction.
Because, I mean, if they're not gonna be here, they're not gonna send, I mean, we've had excused absences, and I know Matt has stressed that he wanted to still be on the board, but he's not here again tonight, so that's 4 in a row.
If the procedure then to do that is, that has to be an action of the Board of Aldermen, and you would have to,
Send in a recommendation.
yeah.
I don't know if anyone else knows, but we can't keep doing this and not be able to vote and keep letting
Yeah, we
things
need
on.
to
Did
be
you ever
sure
give him a
that
reason?
Not really.
No, you just send an email out saying that he didn't want to be a part of the board, and he would be at the next one, and he's not here again, so.
Well,
I
I know
would-
sometimes things, things.
This is
come
4
up.
in a row, I'm sorry. I mean, if I can make it here, I just hit a car and I'm here. So, just, I mean,
I would, and I have no problem with you making that recommendation when it's necessary. I just would bear in mind how hard it is to get
Right.
people who can and want to and will be at the meeting. So maybe, give him a member who has this problem, another opportunity to show up, but with the notion that if you're not, then we're gonna discuss the recommendation, and I have some other people in mind that might want that seat.
I mean, because what if everybody just wants to every meeting? And that could be another thing if you're not. And you gotta commit.
I set my work schedule at the railroad by these meetings.
And that's just a recommendation. I mean, I know that he did stress that he wanted to be on the board, but I think we need to at least have him next
Yeah.
week. And I
So
can
he
do that.
says 4 on it?
Mhm.
I haven't seen him for a while, but I wasn't here last month, so.
He wasn't either.
He was sitting here.
So. Anything else? Any announcements? Oh, motion to adjourn.
Information manager.
I did.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. That was nice, short, sweet.
What time did you guys start?
5:30.
29 on my phone, I walked in. I was so proud, because the other